It's a great honor to be here today and to discuss about agriculture and agribusiness. Because when we discuss about this topic about agriculture and agribusiness, we think on the world without borders. When the people are committed to feed and raise the next generation, but also to take care about the environment. Agribusiness and food processing are important parts of modernizing our economy, modernizing our agriculture, and moving into a phase where a more modernized agriculture helps not only farmers and agribusinesses, but also helps consumers, and all of us could benefit of it. As the COVID-19 pandemic has unfolded, concerns over ensuring food security have been voiced in many countries around the world. While the crisis has immediate effects on food and agriculture supply chains, the negative impact of COVID-19 pandemic is not limited to short-term disruption in supply and demand. There is sufficient evidence to affirm that the pandemic caused by the COVID-19 disease has an important effects on agriculture and food supply chain, mainly affected food demand and consequently food security, but with a great impact on the most vulnerable population and women entrepreneurs in the agri-food sector as well. The effects of coronavirus pandemic on the sector are thus not limited to consideration related to food safety and security, but also encompass far-reaching social economic aspects and alarming inequalities and gender gap. It is partly determined by discriminatory gender norms that limits women's access to productive resources as land, labor, economic resources, equipment, together with responsibility in unpaid care and domestic work, along with their exclusion from leadership and decision-making position. Social dynamics negatively shape the trajectories of women's participation in agriculture and entrepreneurship in agribusiness sector. I would like to mention that the triple load in reproductive, productive, and social sphere in many countries, as North Macedonia is deepens with the burden of unpaid sick leave and unpaid maternity leave for women registered as a farmer and on the farms. Women entrepreneurs in agriculture has been particularly hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Social distancing measures, lockdowns, and distorted supply chains and markets had exacerbated our structural inequalities and challenges that typically impede the performance and growth of women-owned businesses and resulted in many temporarily and permanently closing down operations. So I will share that the international research on more than 10,000 agri-based SMEs emphasizes the impact of COVID-19 on the women is devastating. Most of the women were extremely stressed. The cited low sales, reduced of closed markets, limited on mobility, no income alternatives, and no safety nets. To analyze the effect from the perspective of the civil society organization of the COVID-19 of the women-owned businesses in agribusiness, I will focus on 5 specific barriers, which are limited access to economic resources, poor access to infrastructure, training and technology, no access to profitable markets or limited access to profitable markets, and absence of gender-sensitive support program. As my colleague Fatma already said, but the disparity in the accessibility of the capital may have affected the women-owned business in agribusiness far greater than other business to their exclusion to banking and lack of banking relationship, which means the access to affordable finance for a relatively small loan to manage the working capital has been a challenge, and even if such loans are available, the criteria to avail them are not conducive for the small businesses. And the women in agriculture are mostly owners of the small and medium businesses. Rural producers, with particularly women, continue to face difficulties in accessing input and output markets due to insufficient and poor quality infrastructure in many countries, and additionally the COVID-19 restrictions. Agriculture, agribusiness infrastructure comprises a wide range of public services that facilitate production, procurement, proceeding, preservation, and trade that due to COVID-19 were limited, and still are in many countries. Also, women entrepreneurs in agri-sector during the pandemic have limited access to transport, storage, processing, and preservation to counter post-harvest losses. Institutional infrastructure, as specialized business development institution during the COVID-19 were often not available. Their services are not affordable for the rural entrepreneurs. Despite the promises of the digital revolution, women still don't have the same access and control of information and communication technology as men. And reasons for this include cultural and social factors, time and mobility constraints, heavy workloads, financial resources, and low level of education and digital literacy. Access to profitable markets. Analysis of the key barriers to the success of the women's agribusinesses has revealed the limited opportunities, particularly during COVID-19, for women to access high-value markets and connect with large-scale buyers. For the small businesses, this rely more on the door-to-door selling or selling in physical market, and they're not well versed with the online sales and marketing, and therefore find it difficult to sell their products online, especially in COVID-19 when the local markets were closed. A range of micro, meso, and micro levels factors before and during the COVID-19 significantly impact rural livelihoods and in turn shape women's agribusiness trajectories. The COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting lockdown measures have dramatically underscored how women were already responsible for an untenable broad range of paid and unpaid activities prior to the outbreak of the pandemic. A future concern is that despite the great diversity of entrepreneurship opportunities in agriculture and agri-food value chain, the outbreak puts a halt to some gender transformative policy and reforms by diverting resources away from the women's historical needs. This means not all, but many governments didn't and still don't ensure that all policy responses aimed at agriculture, food security, and nutrition go to robust gender and sectoral analysis, allowing for the assessment and planning of differential effects on women and men in agribusiness. And let me finish. The women in agribusiness and the women farmers are they who feed and raise the next generation, and we all of us should work together to create the best programs how to support women entrepreneurship in agribusiness sector. Thank you.